whether it's racial minorities or LGBT teenagers, often benefit the most from the school choice programs that Democratic politicians tend to oppose because they get cash from unions that don't like school choice. And that just shows you they don't practice what they preach. They send their own kids to private school.
All right. Well, as you know, here in Georgia, we have been rapidly advancing a piece of school choice legislation. I've been involved in this on the ground through one of my contracts. We're actually taking another vote on it this morning. And it's doing very well, but it has had some pushback from your usual suspects, cough Democrats. And yesterday, one of our representatives gave a statement against the bill that went viral because she said the quiet part out loud. Let's roll this clip.
I see access as a problem. I see parents being able to direct their child's education, and they are already in the lower 25 percentile, meaning a lot of those parents did not finish high school and could not finish their own education. I am extremely concerned that we would put money in their hands in that entire piece of life in the hands of parents who are not qualified to make those decisions, and they don't have the money to put in the difference that their child would need to attend a private school if there were one in there already in their
So that was Georgia Rep. Lydia Glaize, a Democrat, and she really did just let the cat out of the bag there. She thinks parents are too stupid to be trusted with having the money for their child's education put in their hands, and then they can choose the best school for their kid. She says, we can't do that because parents are too stupid and uneducated to know what's best for their kid. Wow. Just wow.
I mean, first and foremost, if their parents aren't educated and didn't finish high school, isn't that even more an indictment on the government school system that is failing to educate them and help them graduate and be prepared for life? It's not like say the quiet part out loud. You're actually making our point for us. And just because somebody didn't get a high school degree or doesn't have a huge education doesn't mean they're too stupid to recognize that they were failed in their education and to want better for their kids and to have better ideas about how they might better serve their kids or position them for success down the road. I think this is a disgusting sentiment that is widely held by many people who oppose school choice. They think that your kids belong to them. They think the government knows what's best. They think the government should actually be able to parent your kid and make most decisions. And they think you're too stupid to be entitled to the basic parental rights that anybody who has kids would anticipate they should be guaranteed. So I hated this across the board. I love that it went viral because I think that this is making the point for school choice better than I ever could.
Oh, and of course, as seems to always be the case with these anti-school choice politicians, her kids went to private school, of course. Take a listen to this other clip. She said,
I am for private schools. All of my children graduated from private schools, but I am not for them if we take public school dollars and use them for private schools. We paid for it, and we were able to.
So she's for private schools for her kids. She doesn't want to send her kids to the government school system in Georgia, but she doesn't want poor people to have access to the tax money that's supposed to go for their kids' education and be able to take it to a private school if that's what's best for their kid. She's in favor of private schools for herself and her own family, but not for you and you little plebs. You don't need to have access to those. You can just go to the local school you're zoned into by default, no matter how bad it fails your student.
As long as you're rich enough to pay for school twice, she's fine with private schools or charter schools or whatever choices you want to make for your kids. But you first need to be rich enough to pay the government taxes for government schools and then pay for whatever actual educational path is best for your kid on top of that. But if you're not rich enough to do that, then you're not entitled to make those same decisions for your kids, and you should be stuck in the government school system. It's disgusting. These kinds of people are beholden to one thing and one thing alone, and that is the teachers' unions that pad their pockets and the government bureaucrats who profit off the status quo. These schools have been failing people for decades, and there is no reason to think that throwing more money at the problem will fix it. We already spend almost double per kid per year in the public school system as the average for private schools, at least in the South. There is no reason to think that the outcomes are going to get better just by giving them more money. The problem is that there are no incentives for the school system to get better. There's no competition making them have to compete for those dollars. And as a whole, the school system has gotten so big, so federally controlled, that the actual people working within it who truly want to see better outcomes for kids have very little say over the day-to-day practices occurring. So I think this is awful. I think it makes me even madder to see a Black woman say this, because it's Black kids who have been hurt the most by the government school system. They are the most likely to be trapped in failing government schools thanks to the practice of redlining that trapped Black people in poorer areas of cities for decades and continues to impact where kids go to school. I just reported on a new study that polled Black parents. They are desperate for school choice. They overwhelmingly support these kinds of programs. They say that they feel their kids would be safer, not have to deal with as much bullying, would have better academic outcomes. And academic outcomes impact everything for a person. They dictate what kind of job you're going to have, how much money you're going to make, how likely you are to fall into crime, how likely it is for your family to stay together. These are not small matters. And the fact that people like this care more about answering to their overlords and the teachers' unions than they do the actual prospects for kids in their communities is disgusting to me.
Yeah, it is interesting because the people that progressives claim to care about, whether it's racial minorities or LGBT teenagers, often benefit the most from the school choice programs that Democratic politicians tend to oppose because they get cash from unions that don't like school choice. And that just shows you they don't practice what they preach. They send their own kids to private school, but they don't believe in other families having those same options. I think it's a disgrace, but thankfully we're seeing school choice advancing across the country and moving in the right direction in spite of people like this.